Hi guys, welcome to Crypto Insight. In these videos, I give you a rundown of what's happening in large cap crypto, and in particular, the options and volatility space. I started trading crypto options in 2020 after spending 20 years trading equity derivatives professionally. It's been a lot of fun trading the massive volatility in Bitcoin and Ethereum. And I can tell you as a vol trader, the markets with the most opportunity to make money are those that know how to move. I will give you the insight of my trading and experience and how I'm reading the options market flows and positioning my own book to trade the opportunities in the space. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you like these videos, and hit the notification bell to see these weekly videos as they are released. Thanks a lot and enjoy the video. The crypto this week. So Bitcoin, continued its rally last week, managed to pump above 50K over the weekend, but rejected it, kind of just didn't really hold the level. We've got some large open interest expiring on Friday around that 50,000 area. So it looks like that's going to kind of maybe create some gravity. We'll have a look at some of those charts a bit later. And then you also got some bearish divergence potentially, right? So you see we're making new highs here from the 14th of August, 10 days ago, making new highs. What are we doing? Actually, no, it's from this high here, from 30th of July high, where we broke sort of that 42.5 area. We've gone up to 50, but momentum indicator is quite a bit lower. So a potential bit of bearish divergence there, which maybe we should be cautious of. Okay, and kind of explaining why we're stalling out a little bit. It is my view that we're probably unlikely to break wildly above 51K now, but until after expiry is out of the way. Yeah, I do remain short calls in August and September in Bitcoin. Against that, I'm long Ethereum calls, which are all in September now. So I've been running that call switch for a while now. I've basically used this rally to roll my Ethereum to extend the life out of any August stuff that I had into September. And I'm kind of running it that way because I expect those August Bitcoin ones to go out worthless, basically. Right? My short calls are at like 55,000, and I think they're going to probably end up worthless. But yeah, the levels, like I say, the Fibonacci level retracement of that big sell-off from back in April down to the lows as well, has got that 61.8% retracement around 51K as well. So you've got a few reasons why 51K could act as a bit of support in the short term. Yeah. If we look at the same chart for Ethereum, yeah, the big level here on Ethereum, same thing. Retracement is around 3370, which remains to be broken for now. Yeah. So, and if Bitcoin can't break, then Ethereum's probably going to struggle to break this week as well. So we may get a bit of sideways trading or even a bit of a retracement. Support level in Ethereum that's been carving out has been that 2950 area. It's struggled to break below that. But to be fair, that's a good nearly 10% away. And then in terms of Bitcoin, major support area is going to be around that 47K area. What has the spread been doing? It's kind of been camping out above that, it broke out of that downtrend, but it hasn't really exploded to the upside, but it hasn't gone back down either, right? So it's kind of camping out, trading sideways and spread, nothing too exciting right there, okay? In terms of some of the news flow that I've seen, Coinbase adding crypto to their balance sheet. I think that's pretty good news. It's apparently $500 million worth of money to put to work. They've got like $4 billion of cash on their balance sheet, basically, right? So they're saying, well, in the interest of kind of building the ecosystem and whatever they want to do, it makes sense for them to start holding some actual crypto on their balance sheet, right? So I don't know if they had some Bitcoin already, but they're talking about putting $500 million to work across various cryptos, okay? We also had Visa bought a CryptoPunk for those of you who don't know, that's an NFT, one of the originals, going for quite a lot of money these days. That for like 150 grand, apparently they bought that. And yeah, some people say it's just a marketing stunt. Some people say they actually, you know, believe in NFTs as like a movement, and you know, they just think they're early adopters to like this kind of move in culture that people are moving towards digital, and a lot of these things are, you know, NFTs are kind of the way of bringing the mainstream over to crypto, basically, right? So it's not just the investor class who are looking at crypto as an amazing investment with massive upside potential. It's now people in the kind of fashion and the art scene and things like that, more in the cultural areas of society, who are getting involved with NFT creation. And there's a massive boom going on in NFTs that I discussed last week, but quite interesting that Visa and like a corporate like Visa are kind of endorsing NFTs too. Because a lot of people think NFTs are just a joke, right? Like some of the money that these NFTs are going for, people are just thinking it's just a crazy, crazy bubble, right? So pretty interesting to see the likes of Visa piling in on that action. Yeah. And then you've also had, you know, stable coins in the spotlight. Obviously, Tether's been in the spotlight for a long time, but, you know, in the Fed minutes, it was mentioned that, you know, stable coins need to have more regulation and, you know, can create fragility in the system and things like that. Some people have taken that as negative, but if anything, you know, positive, there's a positive to regulation, right? The more people like the Fed are actually talking about crypto, you know, arguably that's more regulation is going to bring more adoption, right? So, you know, let's see where that goes, but it's not necessarily a bad thing, I would say. Okay. So that's kind of the kind of interesting sort of news headlines that I've seen in crypto over the last week. If we talk about the on-chain stuff that's becoming a regular feature of these updates, you know, some of the things I noticed this week, you've obviously got on the rally, you've got futures funding rates. So perpetual futures funding rates have been moving up, but they are far, far from the extremes that we had back in April, May, right? So despite, you know, a 20,000 point rally off the lows, the futures funding rates are showing you that the leverage in the system in terms of leverage longs is nowhere near what it was. So that's encouraging, right? That suggests that, you know, we haven't just got everyone all in on the rally again, and that's leading to a lot of fragility in this rally, basically, for crypto and for Bitcoin specifically. You're also seeing transfers back to exchanges have ticked up a bit. So whereas that before was a nice sign, we're seeing very much lower money moving off exchanges, which was the hodling dynamic. We are now on this latest rally seeing a move back towards exchanges, which signals that people may be a bit more willing to take profits and moving into stable coins and things like that on this move back up to 50,000. Okay. Shouldn't be a massive surprise because we had said that, you know, there probably had been a lot of people buying around 50K, were then massively underwater when we went to 28, 30K, and now they're back to scratch. Are they going to basically offload that and just breathe a sigh of relief, right? And if we look, so there's some of that going on, I would say, because you have seen some of those shorter term, 6-month aged coins being moved and being unwound. But the slightly more concerning sign is we've actually seen an uptick in the older coins, right? Older coins have started, when I say older coins, 3 to 5 year holding coins are starting to move hands as well. So people have been taking profit. So that maybe is the kind of psychology behind that, might be that people who've been long for 3 to 5 years saw us rally in January and were sitting on their hands hodling. They then saw their profits halve, or they saw the value of their Bitcoin, halve in quick, you know, in short order. And now that we're back up above 50K, they're saying, okay, I've made so much money over the last 3 to 5 years in this. I need to bank some of it, basically, right? So we've seen an uptick. We have seen an uptick in that. It's not in massive volume. If it was in large volume, we'd be more concerned. But we have started to see the first lots of, you know, old long-term holders or hodlers taking money off the table and taking profit on this rally, basically. So that's my main takeaway from the on-chain stuff this week. If we then take a look at what's been happening in the options space, the volatility space. So whilst we kind of stalled and we kind of said, you know, I expected Bitcoin to just bounce around between 47 and 50K. And that's kind of what we've done, right? So realized vol, as a result, has kind of collapsed or has remained pretty low. So you can see here, realized vol, if we look at 7-day realized, it's around 50, low 50s, and implied around 76. We have a look at that on a 30-day. You know, that spreads around 70 vols for the realized on the 30-day and implies at around 83. Right, so decent realized implied gap there of over 10 vols, but everything trending lower, basically, as we've kind of found, you know, a bit of a wall of resistance there. If you want to call it a cool wall. And, you know, that's kind of makes sense given that we know there's a big options expiry coming up this week. If we look at a term structure from a week ago, you know, no major surprise. We're collapsing. Contango we had already, but we're collapsing even more. That front end in the 70s. September, you know, now down to from 89 down to 83. But the back end, you know, March 22 kind of holding up in that 90 high 90s area, basically, right? So really the short end is what's coming in as you'd expect, where realized vol kind of comes off a cliff. People are still extremely bullish longer term, but we're hitting a bit of a resistance wall in the short term. And then call overwriters, if anything, are going to be selling that front end, selling September call options as August is rolling off this week, right? So that's term structure. And then skew, finally, we've had a bit of a move towards the call, the puts this time, right? So obviously calls have been elevated for a while. But if we bring on, you know, some of these other expiries, we can see, you know, all of those skew levels, which were calls over, are moving to a bit less, right? So, you know, the puts in the 7-day, the puts have taken over 1.5 vols over for puts. In the 1 month expiry, calls are only over by a vol point. In the 3 months, they're 4 vols, whereas they were closer to sort of 9, 10 vols a week ago. And then even in the long end, right, the 1 year stuff was around 12 vols for calls over, is now only 8 vols, right? So definitely seeing a bit of a repricing there of upside risk, where market's thinking we might have run out of steam in the short term, and that's filtering through to the call skew across all maturities, basically. Yeah. So that's kind of what we're seeing in the vol analytics. If we look at, like we talked about, expiries coming up this week. If we home in on August expiry, you know, if you look here, open interest by expiry, this is a nice graph. It kind of shows you, of all of the open interest out there, you know, how large is August relative, right? So you see a big spike. You've got around 37,000 options expiring this Friday, right? You've got the next big expiry is September with around 47,000. And you've got a big one in December, similar 46,000. But August, you look at August, I mean, it's definitely looking like it's about 30% of the open interest out there, right? So it's a big expiry. So then if we home in on what are the strikes that kind of matter, you know, you can see there's a massive spike in this 50K strike, right? And it's all call options, right? There's also a decent one up at 55, but, you know, the max pain is miles away at 42. I don't really think that's going to feature. But the fact that we got the biggest option strike at 50K would sort of lead me to think that that's going to act with some gravity, most likely, unless there's some major news event this week in crypto that kind of derails that. We're probably going to oscillate around that 50K area is my base case. Yeah. And then, you know, that's kind of echoed in the gamma, right? So if we look at the gamma exposure graph, kind of home that into relevant strikes and expand this, You see all the gamma exposure. I mean, it shouldn't be a major surprise given that it's, you know, a few days, 3 days till expiry. The big strike is 50K. That's the one that's going to have the most gamma on it. And that's showing you exactly that, right? The peak in that gamma landscape is very much in that 50K area. Yeah. Now, if we were to look at Ethereum gamma landscape, see if that was similar, what do we find? We find probably a bit more of a uniform distribution here. So we have got, you know, a big strike in around 3,000. We've also got one at 32. We've also got one at 35. So, you know, there is a peak around 3,000, but, you know, fairly uniform distribution, basically, relative to Bitcoin. Yeah. Basically saying Ethereum can go anywhere. It's probably, and also the volumes in the options and the size, the magnitude of that options flow in Ethereum relative to the underlying, I don't think is necessarily that huge. Yeah. So, you know, maybe Ethereum is a bit less pinned than Bitcoin is. Yeah. All right. So that's kind of that. I mean, if we drill down a bit into the option flows that we saw, you know, it was all mainly call concentrated this week, right? So you had strikes between 70,000 and 100,000 in Bitcoin were the kind of flavor of the month. Flavor of the week. Call spreads were preferred structure, accounting for 30% of the volume. Outright calls were being bought in like super short dated expiry, like last Friday and this Friday, but particularly in Bitcoin, and the strikes involve around 50K to 54K. And that we definitely saw that on Friday, basically. There seems to be a bit of systematic kind of short-dated opportunistic call buying going on every Friday. If the market feels bullish on a Friday, they come and hoover up a load of 1 week call options, basically, right? And that happened last week, and they traded up to 3,000 contracts in that 1 week call area, which is a decent chunk of volume, basically. And then same sort of story in Ethereum. Focus is a bit more like the strikes are between 5,000 and 10,000. So it's a pretty broad array of strikes. Again, call spreads being the structure of choice, accounting for 40% of the volume. But generally all about the call volume, both in 70% of the flows that were blocked in Bitcoin was calls, and 66% in Ethereum was calls. So definitely the upside is the stuff people are concentrating on, whether they're sellers of upside to earn a bit of premium because they think the rally's run out of steam, or whether they're buyers of upside, probably in the more longer dated side of things. That's what's holding up the term structure in the long end. Buyers of calls up there, whereas we're getting more sellers of calls in the front end, basically, right? So the market kind of agreeing that call calendar structure is kind of the sensible way to play, right, in crypto land. Yeah. Thanks for watching, guys. If you like this content, please subscribe to our channel, give the video a thumbs up, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on future videos. To watch the entire macro call, which includes the live Q&A and a walkthrough of all my top trades, you can sign up for a free trial to Macro Insight. If you join our exclusive trading community, you'll get access to our Telegram group, and you'll also get weekly market reports summarizing the macro call. The link is in the description to the video. And for more information, you can connect with us on socials, or you can visit our website, options-insight.com. Thanks a lot.